I'll never forget the day my grandson called me a liar. We were in the kitchen, arguing about something trivial, when he suddenly turned on me. His words cut deep, but I tried to brush it off as a typical teenage outburst. That was until I stumbled upon a cryptic text message on his phone. The message mentioned a large sum of money and a mysterious meeting. My curiosity was piqued, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I decided to investigate further, scouring his room for any clues. That's when I found it, a bank statement with a staggering balance of $90,000. My heart sank as I realized that the money was mine, and my grandson had been embezzling it from my account. I felt a mix of emotions, shock, anger, and disappointment. How could my own grandson betray me like this? I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I confronted my grandson, but he just shrugged it off, saying I was overreacting. That's when I realized that he had been planning this for months, carefully manipulating me into thinking he was innocent. The more I dug, the more I uncovered a web of deceit and lies. My grandson had been using the money to fund his lavish lifestyle, and he had no intention of stopping. As I delved deeper into the mystery, I discovered that my grandson's betrayal went far beyond just the money. He had been using my trust to manipulate others, and I was just the tip of the iceberg. I knew I had to take action, but I wasn't sure where to start. Should I involve the authorities, or try to handle it myself? One thing was certain, I would not rest until I got to the bottom of this betrayal. The journey ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to see it through. I would not let my grandson's actions define me, and I would not rest until justice was served. But little did I know, the truth was far more complex than I could have ever imagined. The story was just beginning, and I was about to uncover secrets that would change everything. As I sat in my dimly lit study, poring over the bank statements and cryptic text messages, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just scratching the surface of a much larger scheme. My grandson's betrayal had left me reeling, but I knew I had to keep digging if I wanted to uncover the truth. I spent the next few days in a haze of research and investigation, following a trail of digital breadcrumbs that led me from one shocking revelation to the next. I discovered that my grandson had been using my money to fund a lavish lifestyle, complete with luxury cars, designer clothes, and exotic vacations. But it wasn't just the extravagance that bothered me, it was the fact that he had been using my trust to manipulate others, exploiting their good nature and taking advantage of their kindness. As I delved deeper into the mystery, I began to notice a pattern. My grandson's victims all had one thing in common: they were vulnerable, trusting, and unsuspecting. He had a knack for finding people's weaknesses and exploiting them, using his charm and charisma to get what he wanted. I knew I had to be careful, that I couldn't let my emotions cloud my judgment. I had to stay focused, keep digging, and follow the evidence wherever it led. But it was getting harder and harder to keep my cool. The more I learned, the angrier I became. One night, as I was poring over a stack of financial records, I stumbled upon a name that made my heart skip a beat. It was a woman's name, someone I had never heard of before. But as I dug deeper, I discovered that she was a key player in my grandson's scheme. Her name was Sophia, and she was a stunningly beautiful woman with a quick wit and a sharp tongue. She was a few years older than my grandson, and from what I could gather, she had been the mastermind behind the operation. As I read through the emails and text messages, I realized that Sophia had been the one pulling the strings, using my grandson to get to me. She had a reputation for being ruthless and cunning, and I knew I had to be careful. I decided to pay Sophia a visit, to confront her about her role in my grandson's scheme. As I stood outside her apartment, my heart racing with anticipation, I couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation. What would I find inside? Would she be alone, or would she have accomplices? I took a deep breath, steeled myself, and knocked on the door. The sound echoed through the hallway, and I waited with bated breath for the door to open. As the door creaked open, I was met with a vision of loveliness. Sophia was even more beautiful than I had imagined, with piercing green eyes and raven black hair. She smiled sweetly, inviting me in, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. "Welcome, Mr. Jenkins," she said, her voice husky and confident. "I've been expecting you." I stepped inside, my eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. But as I looked around, I realized that I was alone with Sophia. It was just the two of us, locked in a battle of wits. "So, Sophia," I said, my voice firm and commanding. "I think it's time we had a little chat." Sophia smiled again, this time with a hint of mischief. "Oh, I think you're right, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "Let's sit down and talk." As we sat down in the living room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. I was in Sophia's territory now, and I knew I had to be careful. But I was determined to get to the bottom of things, to uncover the truth behind my grandson's betrayal. "Tell me, Sophia," I said, my eyes locked on hers. "What's going on here? What's your role in all of this?" Sophia leaned back in her chair, a look of amusement on her face. "Oh, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "You're so clever. But you have no idea what you're dealing with." I leaned forward, my heart racing with anticipation. "Try me," I said. Sophia smiled again, this time with a hint of malice. "Okay, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "I'll tell you a story. But you have to promise me one thing, you have to listen until the end." I nodded, my eyes locked on hers. "I promise," I said. And with that, Sophia began to spin a tale that would change everything. "You see, Mr. Jenkins," Sophia began, her voice low and husky, "I've been watching you for a long time. I know all about your family, your business, your secrets. And I have to say, I'm impressed. You're a clever man, always staying one step ahead of the game." I felt a shiver run down my spine as Sophia's eyes seemed to bore into my soul. I had a feeling that I was in over my head, that I was dealing with someone who was far more cunning than I could ever hope to be. "But I'm not just impressed with you, Mr. Jenkins," Sophia continued. "I'm also impressed with your grandson. He's a clever boy, always looking for ways to make a quick buck. And when he stumbled upon your little secret, well, let's just say he was like a kid in a candy store." I felt my anger rising as Sophia's words dripped with malice. I knew that she was enjoying this, that she was getting a kick out of watching me squirm. "So, Sophia," I said, my voice tight with anger. "What do you want from me? Why are you doing this?" Sophia leaned forward, her eyes glinting with amusement. "Oh, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "I want what everyone wants. I want power, I want money, I want control. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get it." I felt a chill run down my spine as Sophia's words seemed to hang in the air. I knew that I was dealing with someone who was ruthless, someone who would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. "But why me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why my family?" Sophia smiled again, this time with a hint of sadness. "Because, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "You and your family are the perfect targets. You're wealthy, you're influential, and you're vulnerable. And I'm not just talking about the money. I'm talking about the secrets, the lies, the deceit. You see, Mr. Jenkins, I know all about your family's dirty little secrets. And I'm willing to use them against you." I felt my heart racing with fear as Sophia's words seemed to hit me like a ton of bricks. I knew that I was in grave danger, that I was dealing with someone who would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. "What secrets?" I asked, my voice shaking with fear. Sophia leaned back in her chair, a look of amusement on her face. "Oh, Mr. Jenkins," she said. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The affair, the embezzlement, the cover-up. I know all about it, and I'm willing to use it against you. I felt my world crashing down around me as Sophia's words seemed to confirm my worst fears. I knew that I was in trouble, that I was dealing with someone who had the power to destroy me and my family. What do you want me to do? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sophia smiled again, this time with a hint of triumph. I want you to do exactly what I say, she said. I want you to transfer all of your assets into my account, and I want you to do it now. I felt my heart racing with fear as Sophia's words seemed to echo in my mind. I knew that I was in grave danger, that I was dealing with someone who would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. But I also knew that I couldn't give in. I couldn't let Sophia win. I had to think of something, anything, to stop her. And then, just as I was about to make a move, I heard a noise behind me. It was a faint rustling sound, followed by the sound of footsteps. I turned around, my heart racing with fear, and that's when I saw him. My grandson, standing in the doorway, a look of guilt on his face. "Grandpa," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you." I felt a wave of anger wash over me as I looked at my grandson. I knew that he was in league with Sophia, that he was a part of her plan. But I also knew that I couldn't give up on him. I had to try and save him, no matter what. "Get out of here," I said, my voice firm and commanding. "Get out of here before I call the police." My grandson looked at me, his eyes filled with fear. And then, just as I was about to make a move, Sophia intervened. "No, Mr. Jenkins," she said, her voice cold and calculating. "I don't think that's a good idea. You see, your grandson is in this just as deep as I am. And if you try to call the police, well, let's just say that things could get very messy." I felt my heart racing with fear as Sophia's words seemed to hang in the air. I knew that I was in grave danger, that I was dealing with someone who would stop at nothing to get what they wanted. And then, just as I was about to make a move, everything went black. I came to, groggily opening my eyes to find myself in a dimly lit room. I was lying on a couch, and my head was pounding with a dull ache. I tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness washed over me, forcing me back down. As I struggled to clear my head, I saw Sophia standing over me, a look of concern on her face. "Welcome back, Mr. Jenkins," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "I see you're feeling a bit disoriented." I tried to speak, but my voice was hoarse and barely audible. Sophia handed me a glass of water, which I gratefully accepted. As I sipped the water, I looked around the room, trying to get my bearings. We were in some kind of office, with a large desk in the center of the room. There were several chairs scattered around the room, and a large window that looked out onto the city. But it was the door that caught my attention. It was locked, and I could see a keycard reader next to it. Sophia noticed my gaze and smiled. "Don't bother trying to escape, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "This room is secure. You're not going anywhere until we're finished with you." I felt a surge of fear as Sophia's words sank in. I was trapped, and I had no idea what she planned to do with me. As I looked around the room again, I saw my grandson sitting in one of the chairs, his eyes fixed on the floor. He looked ashamed, and I knew that he was in this up to his neck. "What do you want from me?" I asked Sophia, trying to keep my voice steady. Sophia smiled again, this time with a hint of excitement. "Oh, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "We want everything. Your money, your business, your reputation. We're going to take it all, and there's nothing you can do to stop us." I felt a wave of despair wash over me as Sophia's words sank in. I was trapped, and I had no way out. But I knew that I couldn't give up. I had to think of something, anything, to stop Sophia and her accomplices. As I looked around the room again, I saw a small camera in the corner, its lens trained on me. I realized that we were being recorded, and that Sophia was probably streaming the video to someone else. I also saw a small table next to the couch, with a phone and a notebook on it. The notebook was open to a page with a single sentence written on it: "The truth is in the files." I felt a surge of hope as I read the sentence. It was a message, left for me by someone who was trying to help. But who was it, and what did it mean? As I looked around the room again, I saw Sophia's eyes flicking towards the camera. She was checking to see if the recording was still going, and I knew that I had to act fast. I pretended to slump back on the couch, trying to look defeated. But as Sophia turned away from the camera, I quickly snatched the notebook and phone from the table. I hid them under the couch cushion, hoping that Sophia wouldn't notice. As I looked up at Sophia, I saw her eyes narrowing in suspicion. "What are you doing, Mr. Jenkins?" she asked, her voice dripping with menace. I pretended to look innocent, hoping that she wouldn't discover my plan. "I'm just resting," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Sophia's eyes lingered on me for a moment, and then she turned away, seeming to accept my explanation. But I knew that I had to be careful. Sophia was smart, and she would stop at nothing to get what she wanted. As I sat on the couch, pretending to rest, I knew that I had to think of something, anything, to stop Sophia and her accomplices. And then, just as I was about to give up, I heard a faint noise coming from outside the room. It was a muffled voice, calling out for help. I felt a surge of hope as I realized that someone was trying to rescue me. But who was it, and would they be in time? I strained my ears to hear the voice again, but it was faint and muffled. I couldn't make out what the person was saying, but I knew that it was a cry for help. I looked around the room, hoping to see if anyone else had heard it, but Sophia and my grandson seemed oblivious to the noise. They were too busy discussing their plan to notice anything else. I knew that I had to act fast, to try and get the attention of whoever was on the other side of the door. I cleared my throat, trying to make a noise that would carry outside the room. "Excuse me," I said, trying to sound calm. "I think I need some water." Sophia turned to me, a look of annoyance on her face. "You just had water," she said. "You're fine." I shook my head, trying to look pitiful. "No, I'm really thirsty. Could someone please get me some water?" My grandson looked up at me, a hint of concern on his face. "Grandpa, are you okay?" he asked. I nodded, trying to reassure him. "I'm fine, just a bit thirsty. Could you please get me some water?" Sophia sighed, rolling her eyes. "Fine," she said. "I'll get you some water." As she walked over to the door, I knew that I had to act fast. I called out again, trying to make my voice carry outside the room. "Hello? Is anyone there? Please help me." The voice on the other side of the door responded, louder this time. "We're here. We're trying to get to you." Sophia's eyes narrowed as she turned back to me. "What's going on?" she demanded. "Who's out there?" I shrugged, trying to look innocent. "I don't know," I said. "I just heard a voice." Sophia's eyes flicked to the door, and then back to me. She knew that something was up, and she was determined to find out what. She walked over to the door, pulling out a keycard from her pocket. As she inserted the card into the reader, the door clicked open. A figure burst into the room, knocking Sophia to the ground. It was a woman, dressed in a black jumpsuit and carrying a gun. She was a professional, and she knew exactly what she was doing. "Get down," she shouted, waving her gun at Sophia and my grandson. "Everyone get down." I didn't need to be told twice. I dropped to the ground, my heart racing with excitement. Who was this woman, and how had she found me? As I looked up at her, I saw a look of determination on her face. She was here to rescue me, and she was willing to do whatever it took to make it happen. Sophia and my grandson were not so lucky. They were both on the ground, their hands behind their heads. The woman walked over to them, her gun trained on Sophia. "You're under arrest," she said. "For kidnapping and extortion." Sophia's eyes narrowed as she looked up at the woman. "You'll never take me alive," she spat. The woman smiled, a cold smile. "Oh, I think we will," she said. As she reached for Sophia's hands to cuff her, I realized that I was finally safe. I was going to get out of this alive, thanks to this mysterious woman. But who was she, and how had she found me? As I looked up at her, I saw a glimmer of recognition in her eyes. She knew me, and I knew her. But from where? As I looked up at the woman, I saw a faint smile on her face. She knew me, and I knew her. But from where? Suddenly, it clicked. She was Emily, my former business partner's daughter. We had met a few times before, but I had never really talked to her. She was a brilliant hacker and a skilled martial artist. I had heard that she had left her father's company to pursue her own interests, but I had never expected to see her here. "Emily," I said, my voice shaking with surprise. "What are you doing here?" Emily's smile grew wider as she helped me to my feet. "I'm here to rescue you, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "I've been tracking Sophia and her accomplices for weeks. I knew they were up to something, and I finally found out what." I looked at her in amazement. "How did you find me?" I asked. Emily shrugged. "I have my ways," she said. "Let's just say that I have a few tricks up my sleeve." As she spoke, she led me out of the room, away from Sophia and my grandson. We walked down a long corridor, past several doors. I could hear the sound of footsteps behind us, but Emily didn't seem to notice. "We need to get out of here," she said. "Now." I nodded, my heart racing with excitement. I was finally free, thanks to Emily. But as we reached the end of the corridor, I saw that we were blocked by a large metal door. It was locked, and I could see a keycard reader next to it. "What now?" I asked Emily. Emily smiled, pulling out a small device from her pocket. "I have a plan," she said. She inserted the device into the keycard reader, and the door clicked open. We walked through the door, into a bright sunlight. I blinked, feeling a sense of freedom that I had never felt before. We were outside, and we were finally safe. But as we walked away from the building, I saw a figure watching us from the shadows. It was a man, tall and imposing. He was dressed in a black suit, and his eyes were fixed on Emily. "Emily," I said, my voice low. "Who is that?" Emily turned, her eyes narrowing. "I don't know," she said. "But I think we're about to find out." The man stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Emily. "You're a hard woman to find," he said. "I've been looking for you for a long time." Emily's eyes flashed with anger. "What do you want?" she demanded. The man smiled, a cold smile. "I want you to come with me," he said. "We have a lot to talk about." Emily's eyes flicked to me, and then back to the man. "I'm not going anywhere," she said. "I'm staying right here with Mr. Jenkins." The man's eyes narrowed. "I'm afraid that's not possible," he said. "You see, Emily, you have something that belongs to me. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get it back." As the man's words hung in the air, I could see the fear creeping into Emily's eyes. She knew that she was in grave danger, and that this man was not going to give up easily. But I also saw a spark of determination in her eyes, a refusal to back down in the face of adversity. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, trying to sound calm. But the man just laughed, a cold, mirthless sound. "Don't play dumb with me, Emily," he said. "I know all about your little secret. And I'm going to make sure that you pay for what you've done." Emily's eyes flashed with anger, and she took a step forward. "I'm not afraid of you," she said. But the man just smiled again, his eyes glinting with malice. "We'll see about that," he said. And with that, he reached out and grabbed Emily's arm, pulling her towards him. I saw red as I watched this man try to intimidate Emily, try to break her spirit. And I knew that I had to do something to stop him. I took a step forward, my heart pounding with anger. "Let her go," I said, my voice low and menacing. The man turned to me, a look of surprise on his face. "And who are you to tell me what to do?" he sneered. But I just smiled, a cold, hard smile. "I'm the man who's going to make sure you pay for what you've done," I said. And with that, I reached out and grabbed the man's arm, pulling him towards me. He tried to struggle, but I held him firm, my grip like a vice. "You see, I've been watching you," I said, my voice low and even. "I've been watching you, and I know all about your little scheme. And I'm going to make sure that you pay for what you've done." The man's eyes widened in fear as I pulled him towards me, and I could see the panic rising up in him. He knew that he was in trouble, and that he was not going to get away with what he had done. And then, just as I was about to deliver the final blow, I heard a voice behind me. "Mr. Jenkins, I think you've done enough." I turned to see a group of police officers standing behind me, their guns drawn. "We've got him," one of them said, nodding towards the man. "You can let him go now." I smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction and closure. "It's over," I said, releasing the man's arm. And with that, the police officers moved forward, handcuffing the man and reading him his rights. As they led him away, I turned to Emily and smiled. "It's finally over," I said. Emily smiled back, her eyes shining with tears. "Thank you, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "Thank you for saving me." I shook my head, feeling a sense of humility. "You don't have to thank me, Emily," I said. "I just did what needed to be done." But Emily just shook her head, her smile growing wider. "You don't understand, Mr. Jenkins," she said. "You saved me. You saved me from that monster." And with that, she threw her arms around me, holding me tightly. I felt a sense of emotion rising up in me, a sense of pride and satisfaction. I had done something good, something that would make a difference in someone's life. And as I hugged Emily back, I knew that it was all worth it. We stood there for a moment, holding each other tightly. And then, as the police officers led the man away, I knew that it was finally over. The nightmare was finally over, and Emily was finally safe. As we stood there, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. It was finally over, and justice had been served. And as I looked at Emily, I knew that I had made a difference in her life. I had saved her from a monster, and I had given her a second chance. And as we walked away from the scene, I knew that I would never forget this moment. I had saved someone's life, and I had made a difference in the world.